Hey, it's Marco, the shade tree mechanic out here in beautiful Tucson, Arizona, fixing my refrigerator. It's the middle of the summer. It's been getting up to 100 lately, and wouldn't you know it, my fridge quit. Came home 2 weeks ago, and the fridge was warm. I have it pulled out from the wall. Came home, and it was 75 degrees inside the fridge. And all the food had spoiled, but yet the freezer, which is on the bottom, I have a top fridge and a bottom freezer. The freezer on the bottom, everything was still frozen and just fine. So I didn't know what the deal was. What I did is I unplugged the whole fridge, let it sit overnight, and came back out the next morning, and the drain pan on the back, which is what collects the frozen or the melted ice from the condenser coils, that was full. Plugged it in, boom, the thing cooled back down, and I knew I hadn't fixed it. I knew that something was wrong, but I got 2 weeks out of it. So 2 days ago I came home, same thing was the case. The fridge was 75 degrees. All the food had spoiled. Fortunately, I didn't have any groceries, so it was no big deal. And the freezer was still fine. Now, I don't know a whole lot about refrigerators. I've learned a lot since then. What I did is I this is an Amana unit, and the serial number's on the inside of the fridge. I Googled that, and I said, I think I said Amana refrigerator, serial number such and such, fridge section not cold, and I read as much as I could. I believe that I have it fixed now. What I did was went around to the back of the fridge here, and down here at the bottom this panel comes off, and right in here is the compressor. It's a big round metal ball, and what that does is that compresses the Freon and then sends it to the through the cooling tubes. Right over here there's a fan. You can see the fan is right in there, and below the fan is the drain pan. You can see how this has been draining out on the floor because there's been so much ice that it overfilled the drain pan. So that's really all that you can service back here. I didn't know what to do until I read that what you really have to do is get in here and take the back off of the freezer. And when I took the back, it's a very simple thing. There's just a piece of sheet metal that goes over this that's secured with four bolts. When I saw this, I realized that this is where all the work had to be done, and everything made a whole lot of sense. The way that a refrigerator freezer works, these coils have Freon passing through them, makes it really cold here, so it freezes everything here. This right here is a fan that blows up. You can see there's the fan. It blows up, and there's like a duct that goes up in there, and that goes up the back of the refrigerator, and it blows cold air out into the refrigerator. Now what happened, these tubes, these cooling tubes, freeze up regularly. This whole thing was covered with ice when I opened this up yesterday, and that's just the way that it is. So in the old days, before defrosters, you had to unplug the fridge and let that thaw out and then start it back up again, because what will happen is if this entire thing is covered with ice, the fan blowing can't draw any air through this and up into the fridge. So that's why the freezer will be cold, but the fridge will be warm, because the fan can't pull any air through this if it's solid ice. Now in the modern era, we have these defroster units, and you can look over here, you can see that black tube at the bottom, and it goes up the side, and there's wiring right there. That's a heating element, and the heating element runs all the way across the bottom and goes up the side, and it's the same kind of heating element as they have in some coffee pots. It's just a thing that heats up when you apply electrical current to it. So what happens is, when this thing right up here, that is a thermostat, which is simply a temperature controlled switch. There are two leads that come down, one of which goes up here to one end of the heating element. Heating element goes underneath here. and the other one that returns back to the electrical system. This is for the ice maker, which I don't have. So what happens is when this thing gets covered with ice, the thermostat gets cold enough that the switch inside there turns on. That applies current to the heating element, which runs underneath this whole thing. The heating element surprisingly heats up the coil, the cold cooling tubes, enough that all the ice will melt off of it and drain. You can see down in there, there's a drain right there. It'll all melt, drip down in there. This thing will become free of ice, and it will continue to cool. It worked great for 8 years, and then something quit. And what I did, after reading and doing some research, I cut out the old, here's the old defrost thermostat is what this is. You can see it's the same thing that sits right up there. Cut these wires, I took it down, and you have to put it in ice because you want to figure out if it still works at the temperature, which is freezing temperature, because at freezing temperature it closes, the switch inside here closes and completes the circuit. If it's sitting out here room temperature, it's not going to close. So I put this in ice water for about 10 minutes, just like this, and then I used my ohm meter, which is part of a multimeter, to check the resistance across these two leads here, and I got something huge, like 300 ohms. If the switch is closed, there's not going to be any resistance, and you'll get 0 ohms. So I knew that the defrost thermostat was bad. It's great news because it's only about it was a $40 part. The computer chip that runs this refrigerator is $150. So I was hoping that wasn't the case. So all I did is I took the new defrost thermostat, I clipped it onto the tube up there, that's where it sits, and I soldered. I did a hard solder job here. You can splice them, but I was thinking some environment that's full of water and ice, I want to definitely solder these, and then I hit them with shrink tubing. And that's it. Now hopefully, I know the fridge will fire up just fine and it'll cool just fine, but hopefully when those fins get caked with ice, the thermostat will click on, the heating element will click on, and the whole thing will thaw out, and I'll get hopefully another 8 years of hassle-free use out of my great fridge. So that's that. Thanks for watching.